On today's show, big news out of Georgia as one of their wide receivers suffers what is believed to be a season-ending injury. A little bit of our conversation with former SEC and NFL star Takeo Spikes as he gives his thoughts on the Georgia Bulldogs and their ridiculously good defense. And we'll give you our picks for all the SEC Week 11 matchups. Locked on SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Remember, Locked On SEC is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. This episode is also brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's an unofficial community center. Big thank you to our friends at McDonald's for always being there. I'm loving it. Let's jump into it. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Takes the handoff. What a catch!
Around the conference.
And we start in Athens as not great news. According to Dogs HQ, Georgia wide receiver Arian Smith suffered a broken leg during practice that will potentially end his season. Smith has been limited to just 8 career games since signing with Georgia in 2020. He is a former 4-star wideout that had wrist surgery the summer before his freshman year. Then he had surgery to repair a torn meniscus that cost him all but 4 games last year. He injured his wrist again this past spring, dealt with turf toe during camp, and missed a portion of the start of the season with a lower leg contusion. It has been injury after injury after injury for Arian Smith. Against Missouri a week ago, however, he had 1 catch for a 35-yard touchdown and 1 run for 15 yards. If Smith does indeed miss the remainder of Georgia's season, he would join what's becoming a long list of Bulldogs on the shelf with season-ending issues. You got offensive lineman Tate Ratledge. You got DBs Jalen Kimber and Tyke Smith. You got linebackers Ryan Davis and Tresman Marshall. They were already playing without one of their top wideouts all this season in George Pickens, who tore his ACL in the spring. But all that said, Georgia's deep. They got tons of talent, and it feels like they'll be okay. The top-ranked Bulldogs will return to action this Saturday when they play Tennessee in Knoxville. It's a 3:30 Eastern game on CBS. Over at LSU, they will face Arkansas on Saturday, and they're going into this game with a banged-up offensive line. Wednesday night, Coach O on his radio show stated that right guard Chasen Hines has been lost for the remainder of the season. No details for his absence, but Hines had been dealing with an injury throughout the preseason and into the season. Could be a potential NFL draft pick in the spring. Tigers will also be without left guard Ed Ingram, another senior that is popping up on NFL draft boards. Hines played in LSU's game against Alabama last week. According to Tiger Droppings, Marlon Martinez filled in that spot during practice sessions this week. Tigers and Razorbacks kick off at 6:30 Central this Saturday night on SEC Network. Over at Ole Miss, one of their wide receivers has put his name into the transfer portal. According to On3 Sports, Jamar Richardson, a former 3-star cornerback, has put his name into the transfer portal. Richardson made the switch over to the offensive side to play wide receiver this offseason. He's a 6-foot prospect, picked the Rebels over the likes of Florida, Mizzou, and others. Landed in Oxford after spending 2 years at Jones County Junior College. Peyton Manning announced he is coming to Neyland Stadium on Saturday, hoping to see the Vols pull off an upset over number 1 Georgia. Peyton shared that he is planning on attending the Georgia-Tennessee game during his appearance on Charles Barkley's podcast. Georgia Bulldogs better look out, Peyton said. Tennessee Volunteers are on the rise. Charles Barkley pointed out that his alma mater, Auburn, didn't fare too well against Georgia. He said, hey, let me tell you something. I saw that movie a month ago. It's not going to end well. Peyton said Barkley's probably right, but that he will be cheering hard for the Vols when they show up in Knoxville this weekend against Georgia. And one other Tennessee note, on Thursday, Tennessee announced they will be overhauling the Anderson Training Center as the university has approved plans for $30 million worth of upgrades and expansion project, which will begin construction early next year, will renovate 100,000 square feet of the existing building. Among the planned features for the upgrades, a renovated locker room with new lockers, a full-body recovery lab, an expansion of the weight room and nutritional center, a nap room, a player's lounge, and more. Look, isn't it just keep it up with the Joneses? LSU did it. A&M's done it. Everybody across the SEC, it feels like every couple of years, you got to do big-time $1 million renovations, make your locker room up to par, give the guys a place to take a nap, give the guys a place to hang out, watch TV, shoot pool, whatever. It's just keeping up with the Joneses in the SEC. It just means more. And there you have it. That is Around the Conference. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. When we return, a little bit of our conversation with Takeo Spikes. That's coming your way next. This episode of Locked On SEC brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's a place where friends and family can come to reconnect. It's a place where classmates can meet up for a study group. You're going to have dependable Wi-Fi and a endless supply of French fries and McFlurries. I talk about it all the time. Every SEC campus has a McDonald's either on it or pretty close to it nearby, and you can go there before a game, after a game, whatever it is. There's a McDonald's right near you. Stop by after the next SEC game, or got a kid, take them there for their next birthday party, whatever it is. Head over to your local McDonald's to refuel and reconnect. And as always, when it comes to McDonald's, I am loving it. See you guys at McDonald's very soon. Rolling along here, Locked On SEC. Outside of this, I do a daily daytime radio show with ex-NFL player by the name of N.D. Kalu. And this week, or yesterday rather, we caught up with former Auburn Tiger, former NFL stud Takeo Spikes to talk some football. Figured I'd bring you a little bit of that conversation. First up in our chat with Takeo, I asked him, how hard is it to stay focused when you're playing on a bad team, when you think of some of the bad teams in the SEC like Vanderbilt or Missouri, and you're losing games week in and week out? Asked Takeo, how hard is it to give your all each week and keep grinding just as hard knowing you guys are losing games?
Chris, it's hard. Like, it's very hard. And, like, I was the type of player, and I'll speak for myself, I wasn't necessarily, of course you're motivated, but man, when you going in there and you working your ass off week in and week out, the amount of time that you spend at the facility in the summertime and the meetings and the time you spend away from your family, developing a new family, and all of that is weighed after you play that game and you come out with a loss. It's hard to be able to get back up and do it all over again, because the hard thing is not only just trying to go out and get a win, but also blocking out the negativity of what people or the so-called experts, their opinions and how they weigh on players. And so, like, it's the belief, it's the faith, it's understanding that I got to be able to trust you and you got to be able to trust Takeo. And if we're able to develop that bond with each other, now we can go out and communicate on the field and win without even saying a word to each other, but we're still communicating. Like, that's what makes it so hard.
A little bit more from Takeo Spikes. My co-host asked him about the targeting penalties that we're seeing both in college and at the pro level, and how hard is it to adjust to playing football when you're such a headhunter, a hard-nosed defender like a Takeo Spikes who wants to come and bring it with every single hit. There was a little bit of what Takeo had to say on that.
It's tough, man. I mean, it's tough. I'll put it into this translation for you. Imagine growing up only speaking one language. That's how most Americans are. And you walk into a room one day and they say, look, guys, I need for you to talk to me in Spanish. And that's how it is. You asking guys who have been taught the game a certain way since 5 years old. And so would I, get fined during this time? Of course I would. Like, they probably would kick me out of the game, not because I would just be reckless, but it's just because I've been taught a certain type of way. But, I understand why the rule changes, and I'm more so talking about the hits. I understand why, because it's all about quality of life. I don't want to be pushing you around in a wheelchair at 45 years old. I don't want you pushing me around at that age. So, I understand and I get it. I think ultimately when you look at it, what we do see a great job of, and the guys don't get enough credit of doing it today, is adjusting. They have been able to adjust despite it all and get through the rule changes when it comes to the flagrant hits or protecting one another in a way to where you're not trying to put a man out. It's okay to be hurt, but it's not okay to go out and deliberately try to injure someone.
Lastly, I got Takeo's thoughts on the SEC currently. Obviously, he's a former Auburn Tiger, but he's from the state of Georgia, and I asked him his thoughts on this Georgia defense that has been so dominant. Look, we're Georgia number one in the country. The big part of it has been their defense, allowing less than a touchdown a game. And I know Takeo's kept up with the SEC, watches a lot of games on the weekend. And I asked him his thoughts on this Georgia defense. How good in his mind does he think this Georgia defense is and can be this season?
It's a beautiful thing to see. I can't even lie to you. And as much as I'm an Auburn man, I was born in Georgia, and I always keep one eye on the Georgia Bulldogs. And I will give a lot of credit to Kirby Smart and his staff, because they have been able to create something there that teams could only dream about doing. And the defense giving up only less than 7 points a game, man, that's unheard of. Yep. And this is the thing, when you look across the board, offensively, they really supposed to be more explosive than what they really are. They have they have some problems at quarterback, but when you look on the defensive side and you see number 88, just a true sophomore, Jalen Carter, man, this dude is the real deal. And I'm gonna tell you who's getting all of the headlines is Jordan Davis, the senior defensive lineman. But that boy Jalen Carter, he is unstoppable, and I'm sure a lot of NFL scouts are just waiting to be able to get the opportunity to get him. Even the Kobe Dean, you look at him, the MAC linebacker that plays for him, man. So these guys are stacked across the board, man, and they're fun to watch. That's how you can tell when you're looking at great football. When you turn on a team and you don't have no idea what's going to happen, when you look at the Georgia Bulldogs play, they bring a lot of excitement. And I got them to win the SEC over Alabama.
And again, our buddy Takeo Spikes, and we appreciate him for coming on. Check out his podcast, Behind the Mask, is what he's doing, part of the Believe Podcast Network. Appreciate Takeo Spikes coming on with us there. When we return, we are going to make our picks for Week 11 in the SEC and give you the odds according to BetOnline. That is coming your way next. Speaking of betonline.ag, need to remind you guys about their website. They're back and better than ever. New website interface with the start of college basketball just started up this week. You got the NBA already into the thick of it. NFL several weeks to go. College football just a couple weeks left, but of course we'll have all the bowl season to get in on. And BetOnline, they remain your number one spot for all things basketball and football action this year. If you head over to their new website, do so on your laptop, your desktop, your mobile device. Sign up today and you can get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit when you use our promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON. That'll get you your 50% welcome bonus if you've never signed up before. And look, from basketball to football to NHL, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the rest of this year at BetOnline. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline is where the game starts. Also, good to remind you guys about our friends at Built Bar. Built Bar is still the best tasting protein bar ever. Look, if you guys haven't tried them by now, I don't know what to say. You're missing out. They call it a protein bar, but it does not taste like one at all. You have to try one of them to believe it for yourself. Most protein bars are chalky, waxy, hard to swallow. A Built Bar is soft, covered in 100% real chocolate. When you bite into it, you know you're going to be eating something different. It tastes more like a candy bar than a protein bar. But Built Bars are low in carbs, low in calorie, low in fat, low in sugar. They are very high in protein. So you get all the healthy benefits on top of just being purely delicious. And they got so many different flavors. Sometimes you go to the store and some of these protein bars, we got one flavor or two. Tons of different flavors over at Built Bar, from the mint brownie, which is my favorite, coconut almond, salted caramel, double chocolate, cherry barcia. There's literally something for everybody. And I always tell you, if you never tried Built Bar before, go to their website, built.com. You can get a mixed box where you get one of each of their flavors. And also this month, Built is coming out with new limited time flavors every 3 to 4 days. So go check out their website and check it every day. See what new flavors they got going on there. Go to built.com. Make sure you use our promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED15. You get 15% off your first order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, roll along here, Locked On SEC, and we got to jump right into it because we got some games to get into this weekend and start previewing. It is week 11 of the SEC. It is coming down to it. So let's jump right into it. These odds and lines set by our friends over at BetOnline.ag. We start with the early games. Well, let's first start with 11 a.m. Central, 12 Eastern on ESPN+. Florida will be hosting Samford. There was no line on this game, but it's one to keep an eye on because if Florida loses to Samford this weekend, Dan Mullen will not survive the weekend. I think Florida bounces back. I think they'll beat Samford, but just beware. If there are any struggles at all in this game and Florida hangs on for a close win or they lose, God forbid, Mullen's out. All right, 11 a.m. Central on ESPN. Really good early game. Mississippi State is at Auburn. Auburn is a 5.5-point home favorite. Of course, they just came off not scoring barely anything over in College Station, losing to Texas A&M. Mississippi State coming off a heartbreaking loss against Arkansas where they missed every field goal they tried to kick, including the one that would have tied it in regulation. They sent it to overtime. Will Rogers playing very well. Look, he leads the SEC in passing yards, and the air raid offense doing pretty well for Mike Leach overall this season. Zach Arnett doing a good job with the defense. What Auburn team are we going to get? Bo Nix has played well at home. And look, the stats show typically when we get bad Bo Nix one week, the next week he bounces back and has a pretty good game. So I would expect Auburn to get back to playing good football. It starts with their ground game. They got to be able to run the ball in Mississippi State. Tank Bigsby and company have to be able to move the chains, move the ball. I think Auburn bounces back. I think it's close at the half. I think Auburn pulls away in the second half. Good defensive scheme from Derek Mason. I think Auburn gets out with the victory, and they cover the 5.5. The other 11 a.m. Central game on the SEC Network, Alabama will play host to New Mexico State. Bama got a scare from LSU a week ago. There will be no scare from New Mexico State. Bama is a 51.5-point favorite. You guys know my feeling. When you get into a spread that's over 50, take the underdog. Take Miss New Mexico State plus the 51.5. Alabama's going to win. They're going to get back to looking like they're supposed to. Brian Robinson Jr. is going to run the ball for 150 plus. Alabama as a team is going to rush for probably 300 yards. Bryce Young will be benched somewhere by middle of the third quarter. Bama's going to win big. I just think New Mexico State's got a chance to get the backdoor cover late. Not cover, and Bama won't cover the 51.5, but Bama will win big. And they'll get a little bit of confidence going as they look ahead to Arkansas, and then the Iron Bowl looming large for Alabama. But they got to get back to being physical up front on the offensive and defensive line. Last week against LSU, LSU was able to break off some big runs offensively and defensively. LSU got after LSU's O-line, and that was surprising considering there's a lot of backups there playing for LSU on their D-line. At 4 o'clock Eastern on the SEC Network, it'll be South Carolina at Mizzou. This one is a pick'em. I like the way that Shane Beamer's got South Carolina playing. They're playing with a lot of confidence coming off of their big, dominant home win over Florida last week. And Mizzou, man, has just been a story of not good this season. Connor Bazelak remains questionable for this game. Backup quarterbacks did some good things last week against Georgia, but it was Georgia. Tough to do anything against them. I think Missouri puts up some points this week, but I like South Carolina to get out with the victory. The ground game really worked last week against Florida. Missouri's defense is just as bad. I think South Carolina runs the ball, and I take South Carolina to win one on the road in Como. Again, it's a pick 'em at BetOnline. 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. It'll be Kentucky at Vanderbilt. Kentucky, a 3-touchdown favorite, 21-point favorite on the road at Vandy. It's a get-right game for Kentucky. Look, they were riding high, undefeated, and then they ran off not one, not two, but 3 straight losses. I think Kentucky obviously gets the win. I think they cover the 21. I think they run away from this one. Vandy has had moments this year where their defense has played hard. They just don't have the offense. Kentucky needs to get their defense playing back to like it was earlier in the year, and their offense while we're at it. I like Kentucky to win on the road. I like them to cover the 21 at Vandy. 6 p.m. Central on ESPN. It'll be A&M at Ole Miss. It's a great one. College game day is going to be on hand. Rumors that Katy Perry may be the guest picker again like she was 7-8 years ago. A&M a 2.5-point road favorite. It's hard not to like the defense that Mike Elko is running right now. That defensive front, my goodness, playing lights out for Texas A&M. But we know Matt Corral. We know the tricks Lane Kiffin will have up his sleeve to score some points, get Matt Corral and company going. Sounds like they're starting to get a little bit healthier on the offensive line and at receiver. I think we end up with a little bit of a shootout. I think A&M is going to be able to move the ball on the ground. I think A&M will rush for over 200 yards. But do you like Ole Miss at home? If the Grove is rocking, Vaught Hemingway Stadium is rocking, can they get the home win? I think with game day and all that, I think it pushes Ole Miss. I think they spoil A&M's season. I think Ole Miss gets the victory at home. Give me Ole Miss plus the 2.5 at home. 6:30 Central on the SEC Network. It'll be Arkansas at LSU. How about LSU as a 2.5-point home underdog to Arkansas? I don't know last time that happened. In this rivalry, LSU is dominated. I think they've won something like 7 of the last 10. It's a rivalry that LSU typically owns, but Sam Pittman's doing a good job. KJ Jefferson with the game-winning touchdown drive last week. The ground game's looking good for Arkansas, and LSU's got big question marks on their offensive line and at quarterback. We know that Garrett Nussmeier is going to play this week as well as Max Johnson. How does that mix work? I like LSU to get the upset at home. I think Arkansas comes out, plays a good game, runs the ball well, plays good defense, but I like LSU by a field goal, maybe a late field goal in this one. Give me LSU plus the 2.5 at home. It's Death Valley. LSU wins typically there when it's against any opponent not named Alabama. And lastly, 3:30 Eastern on CBS, the SEC game of the week. It is number 1 Georgia going on the road at Tennessee. Georgia, a 20-point road favorite. Look, Josh Heupel, he's got this offense humming. Hendon Hooker is really running it well right now at quarterback. And they seem to be a little bit ahead of schedule compared to, what expectations were. They're fun to watch. That's the bottom line for Tennessee. Even though they're losing some games along the way, the offense has been so much more competent than the likes of Jared Garantano and all the different offenses they've had the last couple years. I'd love to say that Georgia's going to just win going away because Tennessee just feel like they don't have the depth. But, man, what a win it was for them on the road at Kentucky a week ago. Didn't seem to faze them. Depth doesn't matter. They got guys playing that are playing really well. I think Tennessee puts up some points. I think they score a couple of touchdowns on Georgia. I think Stetson Bennett maybe comes back down to earth a little bit. I've been reading article after article this week about stop doubting Stetson Bennett. He's a winner. He's better than JT Daniels, and he's more than a game manager. Slow the roll. Stetson Bennett's been fine. I think he comes back down to earth a little bit. Throws an interception or two this week. I think Tennessee hangs around for a bit. I think Georgia wins, but I think Tennessee covers the 20. Give me the Vols plus the 20. I may regret this. Absolutely. Like, Georgia may win 56-3, and I may be going, what the hell was I thinking? But give me the Vols plus the 20. I think Georgia finds a way to win. But I think Georgia's defense, for the first time all year, gives up a couple of touchdowns. And we're sitting here going, oh, all right, Josh Heupel, we see you. And there you have it. Those are our Week 11 picks in the SEC. Crazy to think it is almost over, folks. Winding down here. I am Chris Gordy. This is Locked On SEC. Thank you guys for making us your first listen every day. Now go make your second listen. Check out some of our other great podcasts along the Locked On Podcast Network. You got Locked On Aggies. You got Locked On Razorbacks, Locked On LSU, Locked On Mizzou. Tons of great podcasts to go check out out there. Just search wherever you get your podcasts, Locked On in your favorite school, and you will find it. I am Chris Gordy. We'll talk to you guys on Monday with full reaction to Week 11 in the SEC. Have a great weekend, everybody.